Question of the week.
I thought you were going to jump in, Joe. All right. So this is, we have a SpeakPipe from Devo about this, apparently.
Great.
Yes. So the question is, what is a nerd?
Oh, I thought the question was in the SpeakPipe. That's why I didn't read it.
Okay.
Recently, I was just talking to one of my coworkers. He's a young 20-ish, has all the pop head, the Batman, some stuff around his desk, swag. We were talking about something in general, and he made a comment and said, well, it's great that geek culture has, become mainstream. And I began to think about that. What is geek culture and what is being a nerd relative to today's definition versus when I was a young boy, when I was young? If you were a nerd or a geek, it had some pretty negative connotations, really bordered on, let's face it, bullying, if you will. Personally, I was always in the comic books. I was also very much got in programming pretty young, probably 14, the Apple II, Commodores. My mom got it at a garage sale. Now, I was also a wrestler. And that gave me a little bit of a cred as I got older. Not many people mess with me. You didn't mess with the wrestlers. I wasn't a mean kid. I didn't pick on anybody. I was the guy that got picked on. So I didn't feel that need. But at the same time, I feel that over time, being nerdy has become a little bit more positive. My daughter, for example, she is extremely popular. Very, very, very social. But she has this little nerdy side. She likes math. She likes technology. She has learned to not make it too evident. At the same time, it's there. I see it. I know it. And her friends know it. But it's accepted. And if anything, they love her for it, which is really cool. And I really like that change, that paradigm change that we're seeing in the world today. So it has different meanings over time, I think. But I feel like today it's a much better thing. Now, geek, that was a tough one. That is still a pejorative term, I think, in my opinion. But again, kind of varies.
So I guess the question is, what is a nerd versus what is a geek? When you grow up in the 1900s, like Kurt did, it has a different meaning there. What do you think, Kurt? What do you think, Joe? What's your definitions?
I'll go. That's fine. So for me, nerd implies a focused obsession on a particular area. So, and you can be a nerd of multiple things, but it's like when I was growing up, I was a computer nerd, I was a video game nerd, and comic book nerd, and because I was one of the guys that would have those discussions of who would win in a superhero fight. Pick your two and let's just talk about it. And so there's that aspect of things. Geek was and still is more of a pejorative term where I think that implies some social awkwardness on top of everything else. You can be a nerd and a geek. But I think geek tends, nowadays at least, tends to imply some social awkwardness.
I don't know if I agree with that. What do you? What is your opinion?
Oh, you're
Joe?
a geek.
Nerds.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I kind of actually flip those.
Do you?
Yeah, where the nerd in my book has the social awkwardness and tends to have a more book smart intelligence, whereas a geek is more. Nowadays it's pop culture, but it's cultural things that they're interested in instead of more like school learning. So to me, that's how it is. But
well, I think that for me, I think we get our definition of those terms from when we were
introduced to them.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, because really, I mean, I think the first time I heard nerd was probably Happy Days, where Fonzie would call people nerds, and it was definitely socially awkward at that point. But as I got into different pop culture-y type, even that as a term doesn't apply to the things I was into at the time, because it wasn't pop. It wasn't, it was definitely niche-y.
Yes.
So that morphed, I think we took back the nerd, because Geek still had that kind of social. Well, Geek was kind of a sideshow freak type, in the circus.
It's been used as different things for sure.
Yeah. So the terms definitely morph.
They definitely merv. I'm down with that.
Too.
Yeah,
they definitely merv. Yep.
Clearly, we need to use the Poindexter term more often. Random kid. So I looked at the origins here. Now I will say, before I get to the origins and the definitions according to Google,
nerd.
I think are you familiar with I heard you. Are you familiar with Kleenex?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Are you familiar with pocket protectors?
No. So but follow me here. Kleenex. When you go to the grocery store and you want the cheapest version, do you buy Kleenex?
No, because that's a brand.
That's a brand. But when you say, some people say, hand me a tissue, because it's facial tissues is what it is.
Tissues,
right?
Yes.
But it's so synonymous. Kleenex is so synonymous as a brand. You'll say, hey, man, Kleenex. It can be a Puffs box, which is a brand. It can be a Walmart, good, whatever crap brand they have. It can be that, but we'll call it Kleenex. The word doesn't necessarily mean the brand anymore, because people have used it that way. And I think nerd and geek are the same way. It's not what it used to be. It's not the negative. Y'all keep trying to use big words, but I'll keep it simple for a random kid. It's not negative. It is kind of the same thing. It is being passionate about things that are supposed to be alternative culture, if you will, right? It's animation, anime, science fiction, which is now becoming more and more and more mainstream with stuff here, because guess what? We all grew up and admitted we liked this stuff and got unashamed about it. So when you start talking about that awkwardness, and I know what you mean, not just like anxiety or introverts, which all play into this, right? Well, why is an introvert and a nerd almost synonymous sometimes? Well, what do introverts do? They stay inside. What are you going to do while you do that? Watch what you enjoy, which is going to be something that probably most people aren't watching or doing or dealing with or getting their toys or whatever. So, all right, you nerd, stop jumping the gun. Delete those right now. I've got it up. I'm going to talk on the show. Stop jumping the gun. But when you start talking about that, when you start talking about that social awkwardness and everything else, geek and nerd do not describe that. Homeschool describes that. So going to the origin of the word, really, Joe, nothing. You're not going to stand up for your wife? Okay, cool. All right. But you heard my homeschooler.
Look, you're a homeschooled kid. You're just dissing yourself.
You would never know I was a homeschool kid if I didn't tell you. However, everything that was described in some of these definitions, I don't think geek or nerd. I think homeschooler. So the origin of geek is from I saw the etymology a second. There, 19th century, from the related English dialect word gek, or fool, of Germanic origin related to Dutch, gek, mad, or silly. And of course, the informal, I don't know what that means exactly, but the informal here is a person who's knowledgeable about and obsessively interested in a particular subject, especially one that's technical or a specialist of a niche interest. Of course, the derogatory means an unfashionable person who lacks social skills or is boring and studious. And
Charles.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not the sexy one on this show. I'm absolutely the sexy one. All right. Performer. And then what you said, a performer at a carnival or circus whose show consists of bizarre or grotesque acts. So nerd you'll see it's pretty much the same thing. Now, you're close. Now, Fonzie probably brought it to pop culture, but the first documented appearance of the word nerd is in the name of a creature in a Dr. Seuss book, If I Ran the Zoo in 1950, which was a Nurgle, a nerd, and a sea sucker too, is the line there. And of course, where's the definition here? Because basically it's the same thing. It's about being obsessively at some point the word took on connotations of bookishness. Here it is. I had to scroll up. A nerd is a person seen as overly intellectual, obsessive, introverted, or lacking social skills. Such a person may spend inordinate amounts of time on unpopular, little known, or non-mainstream activities. What did I just say? Non-mainstream, but they're becoming, see, that's coming back to, that's enough. We're good there. Coming back to my opinion on it. Well, one, we all run in these circles where we don't even think in terms of nerd and geek, because we're just like, what's your fandom? What's your passion? One of our segments is called What Are You Nerding Out About? And it really is, what are you passionate about? What do you love? What's got you excited this week? You know, so I mean,
yeah, but I think that whole thing has become more mainstream.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at what happened with Last of Us on HBO. It won amazing awards, and that's a game show, or game, and a TV show based off a game, and all the nerds flock to it.
And people hate, people love to diss it, but you cannot argue with the success of The Big Bang Theory.
There you go. Now it does, of course, as a comedy does, play up the stereotypes, but
I'm fine with it. I find that I actually enjoyed the stereotypes.
Yeah, so. Random kid, that is my personal definition. So when I say personal definition, I mean, when I use something, this is what I mean by it. So nerding out about something is just being enthusiastic. How many times? Okay, Big Bang Theory is a good one. They are science nerds. Like they have their own flavor, but they play up the stereotype a little bit. But you know, you throw something out that's in Sheldon's area, and his version of excited. All the characters do that, right? And that's what we see. Football fans. I love when people relate cosplay and football fandom, because it's the same thing. When you take it to generic terms, it's the same thing. You're wearing costume of somebody that you're watching with their name on the back, and like you're dressing as them, type of thing. Because in reality, it's all fandom, right? Yeah. So that's my 2 cents on it. And Devo, I'm glad to hear that your daughter loves math. And I hate the fact that she feels like, or from the story, if I gathered right, she feels like she has to hide it maybe a little bit, but her friends are supportive, like it's a lifestyle choice, which it kind of is. But I mean, I'm just saying that is still a thing in this world of, oh, you like math, you know, be loud and proud. I mean, I thought all my girls are way better at math than my boys. And it's not a gender thing. It's just that was how their brains came out. Is my boys just don't care. They're good at it. They just don't care. And they don't like to read that much either, but they'll do other nerdy or geeky or science STEM things. And my girls will do math, and they love to read and those kind of things. It's just the way they played out. Just be who you are. Thanks for coming to the show. That's it, everybody.
Yeah.
I know.